Mark Gurman has restored my hope in the iPad mini 6, so this is an ongoing battle, which either leakers are just making stuff up, which is totally possible, or they're also hearing the same dilemma Apple is having internally, because they can't decide what they want the next iPad mini to be. It's in kind of a weird state right now. I think there's hope of the iPad mini 6 being an absolute win. Let's begin. So the iPad mini currently sits in a weird spot. In fact, I've seen a lot of people say they should just flat out get rid of it because it's smaller than the budget iPad and it costs more. But I think there's a little bit more to it than that personally. To me, it's not like all big iPads are necessarily better than all smaller iPads. The iPad mini size is really comfortable and really great for one-handed use, which is great for note-taking, and different sizes fit different hands, you know, for different demographics, for different markets. So I think that it's fine that the iPad mini costs a bit more because it also has twice the storage of the budget iPad, plus it has a laminated display, and overall I don't think it's a bad product. It's just a dated one that Apple should refresh, which is why I'm so excited for the Mini 6. But if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that for many months there was rumored to be an iPad Mini 6 in the first half of 2021 that would essentially be the same as the Mini 5, just with slightly thinner side bezels. It would still have a home button, you know, it would still have lightning and all that, and that type of refresh did not get me excited. Even if they got the price down a little bit, I think most people would rather just take the bigger size, and this latest report is suggesting that the iPad mini 6 is going to be the biggest redesign the iPad mini has ever seen, which honestly isn't saying much because since the first generation it's practically been the same thing from the front. But he thankfully has said that it will resemble the design of the iPad Air pretty closely, which I think we all know how that looks, and I personally would be really excited to see an iPad mini without a home button. It's fine if it has Touch ID and the power button, just because it's going to be probably way too expensive if they try to slap Face ID in there, so I'm fine with Face ID being restricted to the pros as kind of a selling point to get you to spend more money. But if the iPad mini had a more modern, futuristic look, I don't think people would directly compare it to the budget iPad as often. Now, I'm sure the budget iPad is still going to be the best seller. It's just way too good a value. It's very cheap, and obviously most people are going to end up buying that one. But if the iPad Air, which used to be refreshed alongside the iPad mini way back in 2019, had a smaller variant that they got to brand the mini, but it still had latest Apple Silicon, which Gurman in his report said that it would, so we're looking at perhaps a 14 or a 15 chip, and it has a larger display than 7.9 inches. Apparently it's supposed to be around 8.5 to maybe 9 inches. That would result in a fairly decent sized screen in a lower starting price than even the iPad Air, which sits at $600. I've never really felt great about that starting price, mostly because it still comes with 64 gigs of storage and there's no Face ID. 600 just seems a tad high for me, but knowing that the iPad mini is smaller and likely won't have a smart connector because it's too small for a keyboard, I think it could start at a really healthy $499, which, if you'll remember, that was the original starting price of the iPad when they first announced it way back in 2010. And the screen size I don't think would be that much smaller than the original iPad, probably an inch or so, but just having one size bezel all the way around, going all in on gesture control, and likely you're getting USB-C plus the Apple Pencil magnetically attaching to the side. That might make it a little clunky if you're trying to use it with one hand, but I hope they could come up with, you know, a smaller Apple Pencil 2 to snap on the side. I don't see Apple really adopting a USB-C Apple Pencil 1. That would be a little weird, but even if it is a little bit awkward to hold, I'm fine with Apple Pencil 2 working on another iPad. That just sounds awesome, and I think it would be very popular because of the price. I think that after iPadOS 15 has launched, Apple has kind of made their peace on how they view the iPad and how they think this is what the iPad future is going to look like. And it's not a Mac replacement, and they're not really too keen on bringing more laptop features to the iPad. So I think that might steer a few more people away from making the upgrade to a $300 Magic Keyboard or even buying the standalone smart keyboard case. I'm curious how well those accessories are selling now. So if you're trying to sell someone on, you know, the laptop replacement thing, you've got a $300 keyboard with a $600 iPad Air. That very quickly becomes a $900 iPad setup that can't really do that much more than the basic iPad mini can anyway. So the only thing I think holding back the Mini 5 is the dated design and the fact that it's more expensive than the budget iPad. But if it was retaining that Air aesthetic and it could still access the far superior Apple Pencil 2, plus, in my opinion, this is a big deal, having access to USB-C, which is is the far superior port, I think you would have an absolute killer product on your hands. A $500 device that you can hold with one hand, and it's running iPadOS, so unlike your iPhone, you now have split screen multitasking and... okay, I guess that's all they have over iOS now. Isn't it so great that we have two separate platforms just for that one feature to differentiate the two? I don't know, I think for the portability sake of being able to throw it into a bag, and I know there's some people out there with the really big cargo shorts, they'll probably be able to throw an iPad mini 6 in their pocket, and who knows, if you don't care about camera performance too much, maybe that'll be their iPhone replacement. They'll just get a cellular mini 6 and take that wherever they go, because honestly, it's not a bad deal. $500 for an all-screen 8-inch display, and you get to charge it with USB-C. The iPhones can't say that. It's not a bad deal, and I'm very curious to hear how many of you would be interested in buying a $500 iPad mini 6, and do you guys think that would steer enough people away from the iPad Air at 10.9 inches, which I think is a decent size, but I'd also be curious to hear how people feel about an 8.5 inch to 9 inch screen size, which I think is really, really comfortable if you want to type a lot just with your thumbs, which is what I remember the iPad mini being really good at, while still having all of the screen real estate to work with. This is your Apple Shape here. I'll see you guys in the next one.